correct as I possibly can. Under our new administration, we are going to be having some changes that are going to be trickling down into our school district. We don't know what all of those changes are. Anything from DEI, anything from genders, what we can have, what we cannot have, what kind of curriculum we can teach, what we cannot teach. People are going to want to know where you stand on this. So, as politically correct as you can, formulate where are you when it comes to what do we think is going to be best for our community, our culture, our children, our teachers. Where are we going to stand, and what hill are you going to be willing to die on? What battle are you going to be willing to fight?
I think I'm first, right?
You are first.
She keeps shutting the microphone on me.
That was me this time, sorry.
I think they're trying to silence
We
me.
buddied up here.
It's going to take more than a microphone.
Can I ask you, are you talking about budgetary change or DEI change
It will be
or
end up
whatever?
being curriculum and how do I say this as politically correct as possible? Just basically, what are we going to be able to teach? What are we going to be able to allow our students to be, do, participate in? Read, not read, discuss, because that all is going to be impacted within the next couple of years.
So generally speaking, my attitude is let's wait until the rock falls before we worry about what's going to crush, okay? So we hear all sorts of versions of this and all sorts of fear and promoted in all sorts of different ways, one way or the other. It doesn't matter who it is. There's always a lot of fear going on. So our role as the board is to see where we're at and try to be as nimble and ready to change as we can. Obviously, we're not even going to know what the budget's going to be like if we're lucky by October. Okay, or November, right? So we may just do as business as usual, with in the back of our mind being ready to adapt and see what hill we can try to go die on. And there may be some, because as you know, a lot of the funding very often is associated with specific behavior or metrics that we need to do, or classes that we need to teach, or things that we need to put in or remove from the classroom, the library, or whatever. I think our job is to do the best we can with the money we have and the regulation that we have to make it the best environment for students to learn core competencies, right? Core subjects, good, solid extracurricular activities, good solid CTEs, and everything else we can offer to widen and allow these students to grow to be functioning adults ready for college, for whatever other trade that they want to do, and make sure they're successful. That's our job. And we have no control over what they're going to do, so we just have to be ready for it, regardless of what the politics is.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. David,
I'll give it a try.
give it a try.
Two things come to mind. One is I taught for a year in the Clackamas School District, and there were quite a lot of regulations about what you had to say. Particularly, we had Fridays we devoted to topics, DEI-like topics. I found that it didn't particularly help in my math teaching, but it wasn't a great strain either. So, I guess I'm trying to say, personally, I did what I was told to do. On the other hand, I think the free market is really important. There's a lot of parents who get quite upset when you broach certain topics. That should be kept in mind. Oftentimes it's driven top down, but the extent to which we can keep our things out of our curriculum that people find offensive, against their religion and so on, I think is salutary.
All right, Sarah?
I'll start by saying this. We teach to standards. That's how teachers teach, is we have a set of standards. Every class has a set of standards. There's art standards, there's science standards, there's math standards, there's reading standards. And so we have curriculum, in theory, that aligns to those standards. And so we need to be, first and foremost, looking at our standards and saying, what curriculum are we using to address the standards? And is this curriculum that is appropriate for our students to have? And we have, as a board, policies in place that address curriculum and standards and what we want, and then it's our job to ensure that our superintendent is following those standards. I will say this, representation in material is important. We want our students to see themselves in the material we're teaching. So if we have a student who's Hispanic, we want to be providing books that show strong Hispanic characters in books. That's important. If we have a student who's disabled, we want to have books that show disabled students so that our students can see themselves represented within the material we're teaching. And I think that's very important for kids to feel safe at school, to have that representation.
Thank you. Wally, what's your thoughts?
Well, the first thought is follow the law. Kind of what Daniel was saying, we don't know what's going to change. We need to be nimble. And with the law changes, we have to react to it and follow the law. Kellison made a comment, I don't know, probably a couple months ago in a meeting our statement regarding stay in the middle. And I think that's really important. We shouldn't be going left, we shouldn't be going right. We need to be in the middle. We need to be shooting what we're targeting for, which is educational growth. And we also need a place for kids to belong, especially at the high school. We have so many activities. It's a great place to be. Every student needs a place to belong, whether it be theater, music, sports, ag. There's a spot for everybody, and we need to make sure all these kids are plugged in and part of our community and part of the school.
Kellie, what's your thoughts on navigating this new, maybe happening, but what do you think we ought to be doing?
Well, I liked the approach of one of the board members recently, which was we should have a plan and be prepared, even if some things are uncertain, so that we're not caught off guard. It's interesting and has been eye-opening to me that sometimes the federal government and the state government don't agree, and we get funding from both of those places as a school district. And so, who do you get the most funding from, and who are you going to make mad is a consideration, and that is really tricky to navigate. We get a lot more funding from the state than we do the federal government, but our federal government funding provides a lot of staff, and so those things are not irrelevant. I think that it's important for us to follow the law, and it's also important for us to listen to our community. I really like options that we have for opting out, because it allows us to provide curriculum for a variety of family values, and lets families determine if this is not material that I would like for my child to get at school, I would like for them to get that at home from me. There's some ideas at the district office to have some kind of grab bag type curriculum to help families accomplish teaching subjects in a way that they're comfortable with, that fits with their family values. I like those options. And I think that we need to be flexible and aware that, times might be changing, rules might be changing, governments at the federal and state levels might not agree, and we need to be able to work within the values of our community to meet the law and still provide an appropriate and valuable education to all students.
Okay, thank you very much. Nicole?
Well, I pretty much agree with what everyone said, and I don't know what I can add on top of what they said, with exception to what I began talking about when I answered the second question. Safety, specifically the emotional safety of our students, and not letting all of these changing things that we are not quite sure how they're going to line out yet affect how we are interacting with our students, and making sure that it doesn't affect them negatively by bringing more fears or anxieties or tensions into the classrooms. I think as we bob and weave with dealing with the new legislations or regulations and stuff coming down the pipe, we really need to remember that any tensions that it causes among all of us as adults should not reach the kids. The kids still deserve to have safe environments where they're able to learn and good curriculum that meets the standards without worrying how they feel about it, right? We need to make sure that all of the things that all of us adults are dealing with as all of these things change are not affecting the kids negatively so that they can keep their minds in a space to learn what they need to learn.